Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's June 11th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And so far, it's just another tight trading range today, another about 4 points. So, the only way you can make any money really is to buy or sell, you know, sell the highs or buy the lows. And it gets a little tricky in the middle. Had a trap here, so I liked that one. Here, I just thought we were trending higher at that point, and we're probably going up to here, but it didn't happen. It didn't turn out that way. Um, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But, my experience tells me that we should probably look for a measured leg like this if we head lower from here. And so that gives us a target down here around 1933 or so. But if this thing continues with the same MO that we've had fairly recently, I would look for a failed break that goes higher from here. So we'll just have to see. But generally, this would be my experience or my opinion that I'd be looking for another leg like that one if we broke lower here. But we didn't really break higher and create a trap that would, that a lot of times you'll see that before you drive lower. So for the most part lately, when prices have broken lower like this below important support, we've turned around and rallied. I do see a little channel here that looks like it had a break, but maybe we haven't had a break and the channel is a little wider, and maybe there's a midpoint in there. That's very possible. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there just in case that turns out to be the case. And so far, we're not bouncing off this lows at all, so we'll just have to see what happens. So, but let's talk about the trades. We had a little sell-off in the overnight, and generally you're looking for a new short here. This one could have gone either way. I didn't like going short here, so I just sat and waited. If this would have broke higher and then turned lower like it did give you a very bearish bar. But when it bounced right there off those first two swings, then I would have been looking to exit this one. So if you did go short, because it would be easy to go short right there, and it was fairly tempting. But generally, right around that 8:30 hour, they'll take it one way and whipsaw it. So it. But when it bounced off that trend line and then it came back and bounced again, I really liked it already because notice the new low, you get a first entry short, a second entry short. So when it failed short right there, I like that for the failed trap that usually traps people and goes higher. So when it didn't go higher right there, I got a little bit nervous. But when it bounced off that trend line again, you can't ignore that. And so you could have entered either one of those or even added on here if you didn't get shaken out of that. But if you got short right there, again, there's not much you can do about it other than, when you see this bar break lower and turn up instantly, I'd probably just exit right there. I wouldn't hang on to this thing. I'd take what it would give me because on the second entry short that's a good trade with a good setup, it should move on down fairly quickly, and it just didn't happen. So I didn't like the short simply because even though we had this channel down, and normally you would be looking for a new low, this area has been, anything down in here has been a good buying point lately, and you can see where prices are at right in here. Here's that same, let me go back over here. Can't remember what that price level was. You can see that's that same price level, 1940, 1941. Right in here, that's kind of been a really good buying point. Anywhere in there below 19. Seems like the other area was 19 20 or something like that. Yeah, the 24, 20 area in here, right through here. And so that's what made me leery of it. Otherwise, there's nothing really in the price action that would say don't sell right here, other than the fact that you didn't really get rejection off the EMA right away. But you don't always get that either way. So, um, but generally, I would have looked for that to turn down pretty quickly. And even though it did turn down and give a bearish bar, it didn't go down. I mean, you would look for something a little more bearish than that. Really, you would have looked for it on that first touch, and it just didn't do it. So it led me to feel like, hey, I bet we're going to probably continue a little higher, because that's a really big sell-off. We didn't come back and test any of these lower points yet, and generally that's going to happen. And so I just felt like, hey, let's sit still. But if you did get trapped short right there, when this bar created this right here, I would have exited. I would have taken what it would give me. And when it turned down again, it was really tempting to go short even here. But now it's a clear channel working up by that point, and so you got to pay. You can't ignore that channel. And when it turned down and bounced right again, I'm thinking, hey, you got to go long right here. And you really, like I said, you could have gone long off of this bar because of the failed second entry short that triggered when it broke higher. And even though it did back up again, as long as your stop was below the signal bar, which would be that bar right there, everything was good. Make this a little bigger. So um, anyway, I hope that makes sense to you. But there's really no way to filter that trade other than just being real leery because of what's happened lately, and knowing that this is a huge sell-off in the overnight, and generally, we've rallied after that. So, and then there's another entry here that bounces off the trend line, but by the time you get a chance to enter, it's way up here. But what I liked about this one was it broke lower here first and then went higher. So you could have had a stop sitting right there and taken that trade, even though it's moved quite a bit. You could have used the limit order and it would have come back and filled you, but it had just enough to get out, and turned out to be an okay trade. I drew it in green because some really aggressive traders probably would have just bought when it broke lower and started going higher. They probably would have just watched it go up and dropped a limit order and probably gotten filled. And there's some people that'll even just place a buy stop down here if it drops down. They want to enter, and but it's a little bit aggressive doing that, so I'm going to mark it in green. And by the time it gets up here, you've got plenty of clear and obvious price action to know that you've got a channel working up here. So you got to be real careful about going long at the top of that channel. So unless you could get in down here near the EMA, I just think you have to skip that one. So it's a little bit aggressive, and you don't want to be going long right here above all those. So you got to wait for it to come back, and then guess what? You get a channel break, and I really felt like you needed to wait on, because that's so bearish, you needed to wait on a second entry, and that doesn't come till you're back up here again. And no reason to go long here because this is acting as resistance. It's not any question if there's any support there yet or not. It's all resistance. And then when it breaks higher and tries to go lower again, then you got that failed second entry long. So just go short right there. And I didn't expect it to move down that quickly, but look at it go. And you get the break. You try to get a retest for a new low. It bounces. I really was hoping it would tick lower and create that little one tick trap that we've been seeing, but it didn't. So I say you just go long on a stop above that if this breaks higher, and it does. Easy scalp. Then it comes back and it gives you another chance to get long. It makes a higher low. Now you got a higher high, double bottom with a higher low. This pattern is really called like a double bottom pullback, and you'll see that a lot. They try to go back and test that double bottom, and if they can't make as low a low, that's telling you that the buying's getting stronger. And so I like that trade. It's really a failed second entry short. Here's your new low, first entry. There's your second entry right at the EMA. And some people might have thought about going short there, but this is really looking like a trading range now, so I don't think you can go short right there. I'm looking for it to go to the other side. And then I like this one because this is just again, you got a new high here. First entry, pull back, second entry, it fails. and we make another double bottom at a higher level. And so I think you go along there looking for it to at least come back up here. And I really thought we might break higher, but it didn't do that. So then you get a second, and I don't like going short right there on the first entry. Not when prices have been breaking out. And there's actually a trend line working up through here that I don't have on here. Let me get that on here. You can see there's a little channel working up there, and you just get another bounce. And it's similar to this one. It's not as steep as that one. It's a little wider, so it gives you a little more room. But you get that little failed second entry short. It's two legs back to the trend line to the EMA. Just go along on that break higher. Another easy. Even if you waited on this bar to go as your signal bar to go higher, the trade works with no problem. And then I don't think you can go short there. You get a second entry short here, and I went back and forth whether or not to make this one green, but the way this thing is acting the last couple of days, it just makes sense to look for a second entry short. And that's counting off the top. So notice the new eye, there's one leg down, pull back, so that's your second leg down. So that's like a second entry short, or I call it that, but it's not your typical leg, entries. First entries are just like the first leg, second entries like second leg. So when you're coming off the lows or whatever, this is like or a high, this is like a second entry short. It's not a very good setup bar, but I like little dojis like that near the extremes because they let you get in with a very small stop and very little risk, and fairly easy scalp. It pulls back, and then you get your failed second entry long, and that's the sure thing right there. Let's just make this one green because it is a little more aggressive. And there's your sure thing. Boom, and off to the races, down it goes. And notice this, we looked like we were going to have that little failed break lower again, and they couldn't break it higher. So far, we're still working lower. I don't see a short setup there by any means, but we're still working lower. So again, it wouldn't surprise me to see a measured leg down to here. So we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, generally that's what I would be looking for. The only reason I'm a little hesitant to suggest that at this point is just because of the way this market's done. Almost every day you get a range of some kind, or some kind of important support area anyway, and it fails to go lower and then reverses. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to say we're going to go lower from here, because I've just seen it something different day after day after day for a couple of weeks now. So, but that's what I saw today, and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that's worth mentioning. That's really about it. And there actually was a second entry short right here that was really tempting, and that's a real small bar, again, with very low impact, but we didn't have a new high yet, so that's why I didn't quite mark that one. But that one could probably be green as well, because I know somebody's probably going to ask me why I didn't like that one. But the reason I didn't like that trade is because we didn't quite have a new high, and there's, the odds are they're going to try to work it up. And you see they did try to come higher again, but that resistance just, they couldn't break it, and we turned down again and you get that little trap. And it looks like maybe they're trying to trap people over here and take it higher again, but we'll see what happens. So, and that's really about it. Again, the places, once you realize you've got a range, the place where it gets a little, what I call no man's land, is in the middle, right in this area right across here. You didn't really have that here because you don't know that it's a range. It just looks like it's going to, or at least you don't have your resistance yet. It just looks like it's probably going to work higher, and you think, my first thought is we're probably going to test the high and have a bigger range, but it didn't happen. But it's not really, just so you can see what I'm saying, if you see it right there, it doesn't look rangy yet. In fact, it looks like you probably ought to be looking for a short, but if you draw this little channel here, which is really easy to find, and the price action is fitting really nicely there, that's a reason not to go short yet. So you just sit tight and wait, and next thing you know, you get the trap to the long side, and we're still working higher. And then it's real clear when it's going to reverse because you don't get a setup here, so you don't get fooled, and it just makes a new low. And look how that went right through the trend line, right through the EMA. Um, that's a reversal. Look how it made a lower low than this low and this low and even this low, and it really couldn't find support until way back down here. That's not a good sign that you're going to go higher. So that's another reason you might want to be a little more aggressive here. Although I'm surprised we didn't tick a couple of ticks higher and make a new high right here before we turn down. But when it tries to go higher again here, and you get that failed second entry long and a trap, and then you got a sure thing almost with low risk there. So I hope that makes sense. But just like right here, look how that bounced, and it went right through the EMA. You didn't get any resistance at all. That's the way range type days will do. You just swing back and forth from each side of the trading of the EMA, and that's a good sign. And I was really surprised that it came back this far. I really thought it was going to tick one tick lower and go higher there. So I was looking at maybe a little steeper trend line there. But it didn't happen. It didn't turn higher till right here, but it's still the same setup. And just you actually like it better here because you're getting a chance to go short at a lower point with plenty of room to scalp out rather than having to go long right here near the last high. So that's what I really like. I was happy to see it move down, but I really didn't think it would. But that's one thing. I'll say this, and I'm going to wrap it up, is that what the difference between profitable traders and ones that are struggling, or the struggling traders are looking for an entry on every bar, every single bar. They're not anticipating anything. And I'm anticipating things to happen. I was anticipating this trap. I was anticipating this possibly being a trap. I was willing to skip this trade and wait on a better setup rather than try to go short there. So I was anticipating a possible trap. Why? Simply, I don't even, sometimes there's no explanation other than just experience. And, knowing that we got those first two swings and it's fitting perfectly on the top, you got a channel there. You got to wait till you get a break and a retest, and then you can go short. So and you don't always get a retest with a new high, just like here. Sometimes you don't even get a retest. Like right here, it tried to retest it twice and it couldn't, and then it goes higher. And that's another thing. This is really, you could count this as a failed second entry short because you got a new low, first entry, pull back second entry, and then it reverses. So whenever you get a second entry short with the current trend, and it reverses real quick, then that's not a good sign. Those are good traps. So, but anyway, you want to be, expecting things. And I wanted to go long right here, but I got to thinking there's a good chance it could turn up and pull back, and so wait on that failed second entry short, and then see if you can get a better entry. And by being patient and waiting, that's exactly what happened. It wouldn't have hurt you if you entered here, because your stop would have been okay because it goes below that bar right there. But at the same time, by going here, I didn't take any heat at all, and I was out of this thing in a blink. And I rode it right to the top and exited. Plain and simple. So you're anticipating a lot of these things happening, and the only way to know is by drawing your trend lines and drawing your channels. And sometimes it's just experience, a knack for watching what prices do over and over. And somebody actually sent me an email this morning, and he was asking about two very similar setups. Actually, I'm going to pause it and pull that up because we got a couple of minutes. Okay, here's the chart he sent me, and the question was that the two areas in the square. Okay, just as I was getting started there, I had a little interruption, but basically the email, you can see the two areas, and there's two different charts here. One of them is from one day and one's from the previous day. And he's saying that his question was, or concern was this looks so similar, why was it okay to go along here and not in these? And even though it may look similar, I can assure you there's quite a bit of difference here. And I'll show you these things. First of all, your trend line, your little channel working up, you got a break and a move to a new high. This one, you don't really have a break of the trend line yet. And you can see it's fitting nicely. It's holding prices nicely, and it turned prices when you got the overshoot up here at the, later in the day. There, you might have had a small trend line working up right here. It's a shorter term one, but you had your break, and prices are still trying to make the retest. So, going short there is a little bit iffy. Here you notice you got the break and you got the retest. But more important than that, here's your resistance area on this day, and notice how prices are just, it's acting as resistance all the way across here. No time do prices close above it, get above it and pull back and test it or anything. Where here's your overnight high here, and here was your resistance. And notice how prices have shot above it, and you're getting some closes above it. And we did get back through right here, but it came right back again. And notice the close does not, it can't close below that. It's acting as support. So there's a lot of subtle differences here. Another one is when when prices came down here, you didn't really get any support off that EMA. It actually kind of traded right on through first and then bounced. Here, notice how the first pullback, it bounces, it pulls back again, it bounces, it pulls back again, and it tries to get through and it bounces again. Where you're getting a little bit of a bounce here, but the first time it just went right on through. It didn't go through far, and it's subtle, but it's totally different if you look at it and study it. And that's what I'm always talking about studying your charts. Just looking at these two, they look very similar, but I can promise you there's a lot of differences. Another thing about this day here, look at the EMA right here. Look at it, it's straight up. At a nice 45-degree angle. That's a healthy trend. That's the way they do. Look at it right here. It's flat. And you got to obviously confirm. So it's not the pattern. Even though these patterns look similar, they're not similar at all. There's a little congestion in here, but right in here, for sure, no doubt about it. And there's congestion here, so that may look similar, but the way prices are reacting and what they're doing are totally dissimilar. And you can see prices are going back and forth, and the EMA is just basically flat. Even though it's wavy up and down, it's still flat. Where here, it's all up. So I hope that is clear. And I hope, that's what I'm saying. Again, that's what I mean by studying your chart at the end of the day. Study this and figure out these differences and learn to spot them and learn what they mean. Trading it, because if you're just trading it at the end of the day, if you'd have been wrong here if you'd have gone long, and you'd been wrong here if you'd have went short. So you got to figure out why. What was different? There's something that's different. There's something going on that's different, I can assure you. And you got to be able to figure those things out and spot them and work with them. And with time, you'll learn to see these things. So I hope that's helpful a little bit. And that's one thing I like about getting charts. That it's usually, if it's a learning experience or question for one person, it's a good question and learning experience for another as well. So. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. One thing I will give you heads up, I'm probably going to trade through Friday, but I'm going to take most of next week off. I'm going to be going out of town on vacation. There's a College World Series going on, and my favorite team will be playing in it, so I will be there rooting them along in Omaha next week. So, again, I do plan to trade through Friday. We're not going to leave till Saturday, so I'll probably trade Friday. So we'll probably have a chart lesson and all through Friday. But if you're looking for a chart lesson Monday through Wednesday at least of next week, and you don't see one, you'll know why, because I'm on vacation. So I'll put up a vacation notice and all on the website just to remind people. But anyway, hope you had a good trading day, and hope you're having a good trading week. We'll be back to do it again tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.